So you want to spunk out less than $500 on your next shiny pocket rocket? Well, two of your best options in 2024 are Samsung's Galaxy A55 and Xiaomi's Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus. Both of these marvellous mid-range blowers serve up respectable specs and enough killer features to choke a moderately sized beluga whale, but they're also very different from one another. One of them packing a serious punch for gaming, the other one offering some unexpected bonuses like expandable storage. Now, the price is pretty similar, but the Galaxy A55, while it will set you back 439 quid, there is the option of shaving up to £150 off that price by trading in your old blower. Meanwhile, the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus will usually set you back 449 of your fine British monies, but a current deal on the Xiaomi website knocks that down to just £399. So which mid-range mobile is best for you? Well, I've had my SIM slapped into both, so here's my thoughts. And for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do poke subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! Now, it's quite easy to tell apart the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus and the Galaxy A55 because they look and feel rather different. They're a similar weight and a similar heft as well, although the Galaxy A55 looks more like a brick because it's adopted that iPhone-style flat edging. Whereas in comparison, Xiaomi's smartphone has got this lovely, pleasantly curved finish to it, so it feels more comfortable to clutch. It's less aggressive on the old palm flab. That said, it is just a placky frame here on the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus that gets upgraded to metal on the Galaxy A55. So even though I prefer Xiaomi's hand feel, the Galaxy A55 is undeniably the more premium of the pair. The Redmi has the slightly bigger display of the two, but Samsung has slapped on slightly thicker bezels, especially just beneath that display, so they're basically the same dimensions. Although as you can see there, the screen on the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus just curves ever so slightly at the left and right edges, whereas it's a completely flat panel on the Galaxy A55. So already, as you can see, plenty to tell this pair apart. And then when you flip them over, even further differences as well. As you can see, you've got a matte finish here on the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus. That does a pretty good job of masking fingerprints and other scuffs. So here on the Galaxy A55, Samsung's gone with a glossy vibe instead. So unfortunately, this does get quite smudgy. You'll have to give it plenty of buffing up action to keep it looking reasonably respectable. And obviously that design a wee bit different as well. I actually quite like the bizarre patchwork effect here on the Redmi, compared with the fairly simple but smart, I guess, Galaxy A55 design. I mean, it basically looks like every Samsung smartphone that they've put out for the past several years. And Xiaomi is offering the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus with a strokeably soft fake leather style arse in some regions, but that doesn't appear to have actually come to Blighty. And as for the general hardiness, well, they're actually both pretty rugged. You've got Gorilla Glass Victus protecting those displays. This is remarkably shatter resistant. However, you've also got a screen protector slapped onto the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus, which I'd highly recommend because Victus does tend to scratch up a bit more easily than other types of glass. Sadly, no pre-installed screen protector here on the Galaxy A55, so I'd certainly chuck one on if you can. And also both phones highly water resistant as well. IP68 rating here on the Xiaomi, IP67 on the Xiaomi, but basically both of them can take a serious dunking if you drop them in a sink or a bath or something. Just towel them off, they should be absolutely fine. Now, when you want to actually use either of these phones, well, it's an in-display fingerprint sensor to get into them. Seems to work a little bit faster here on the Redmi, but both are reliable and fairly responsive. And as an alternative, both phones also offer a bit of face unlock action as well. Just smash that power button, and then as you see there, just a second or so later, you're in. Less secure than fingerprint sensors, but still a good alternative if your mitts are a bit moist. And once you're in, you've got a good bit of Android 14 on both the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus and the Galaxy A55, and at first glance looks very similar. You know, flick your finger this way and you've got Google's Discover feed to scroll through and waste a whole bunch of time. Got your usual Android apps tray, all that good stuff. However, each manufacturer has slapped their own launcher on top of Android to change up the general vibe and the user experience. So here on the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus, it's actually just been upgraded to Xiaomi's fresh new HyperOS. Whereas on the Galaxy A55, you'll find Samsung's very own OneUI. Now you'll start to notice some of the differences as you use the smartphone. So for instance, flick down with one finger, you'll open up the notifications bar, which is a bit more regular here on the Galaxy A55. You've got notifications, drag down again, and then you've got your control panel. Whereas here on the Redmi, you can actually drag down that control panel from the right side of the screen with a single swipe. giving you fast access to your toggles, your smart home goodies, etc. Though I prefer the slightly neater, more obvious layout on the Samsung smartphone. And sadly, both of these blowers are absolutely stacked with crapware. Xiaomi is definitely the worst of the two offenders. Here on the A55, you've got some Microsoft guff. You've got the likes of LinkedIn and Facebook, which I think I've already deleted. Whereas here on the Redmi, you've got to practically dedicate a whole day to getting rid of all the bollocks they've shoveled on here. However, on the Galaxy A55, as usual, Samsung has tried its level best to get you to use its own apps and services rather than Google's. They've got their own version of everything. They've got their own version of Google's Wallet, fitness tracking, smart home shenanigans, even the Bixby Assistant. And if you're already a Samsung user, then, you know, for an easy life, just go their way, use their services. But otherwise, if you want to use the regular Google Android stuff, you're going to have to mess around with all the defaults, get it changed about. And then there's loads of other differences when it comes to the features. So for instance, the Redmi phone has the better gaming mode of the two by far. But on the flip side, Samsung's Bixby Routines automation is proper good. You've also got a better selection of dedicated security tools with the Galaxy A55, though you've got all those excellent Android built-in bits with the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus, so it's no slouch in that area either. And speaking of which, what about the updates on these blowers? Well, Xiaomi pretty good in this area. You got 3 guaranteed OS updates with the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus and 4 years of security patching. However, as good as the Xiaomi is in this area, Samsung is absolutely waving its willy at them because you've got 4 guaranteed OS updates for this bad boy and 5 years of security updates. So if you really want something to last you the long haul, then the Galaxy A55 is slightly better in that department, but honestly can't fault Xiaomi either. As for the storage, where you've got 256 gigs of the stuff minimum here on the Redmi, I actually doubled that up to 512 gigs, whereas the Galaxy A55 starts at 128 gigs. If you want to double up, then you got the same amount as the base Redmi 256. However, while there's no option to expand that storage on the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus via a micro SD memory card, you do actually get a memory card slot here in the Galaxy A55, which is pretty rare at this price point. It just takes up the second of the 2 SIM slots right there. The good news is both of these mid-range mobiles offer a bit of eSIM action, which is very helpful indeed if you're traveling. Just get a temporary eSIM for a week or so, do you wherever you end up. So now let's have a squint at those almighty displays. On the Samsung Galaxy A55, a 6.6-inch AMOLED, boosted ever so slightly in size on the Redmi to a 6.67-inch AMOLED. It's a pleasingly sharp 1.5K resolution on the Redmi blower. It's a full HD effort on the Galaxy A55, so not quite as crispy, but honestly stick these blowers side by side and check out an ultra high-res photo and you will struggle to notice much finer detail on the Redmi. Both are more than up to the task of photo editing, and they are fine ways to just recline on the sofa and enjoy your favourite bit of Disney+, Netflix, YouTube, whatever. The Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus supports Dolby Vision HDR streaming. Meanwhile, Samsung goes with HDR10, so both can pamper your peepers with proper lush-looking visuals and the likes of Netflix. And both displays are set to vivid colours by default, and certainly the likes of animation looks proper punchy. And thankfully, both of these displays get pretty ruddy bright when you boost them all the way up to maximum levels, so they're fine for outdoors use. The Redmi's slightly brighter than the Galaxy A55, as I say, both fine. When the sun shines, they'll do the job. And both these displays max out at 120Hz refresh, so reasonably fluid when you're zipping through those menus, and also supported apps will look supremely smooth. And you've also got a pair of stereo speakers slapped on both of these phones with Dolby Atmos support. And they'll both certainly do a job if you are kicking back in a noisy environment, something like a busy kitchen, trying to enjoy some of your favourite bald YouTube twat or whatever else. You'll be able to clearly hear it over the din and racket in the background. So first up, here is the Redmi in action. But first of all, what do you get stuffed inside of that rather sizable, although admittedly not particularly thrilling, box? And now here's the Galaxy. Snazzy looking if clunkily titled Camon 30 Premier 5G. Got a big old beefy Techno 70-watt charger. So difficult to really tell any difference between the two. They reach about the same top volume. The clarity stays pretty strong on that top volume, and I obviously wouldn't use either to listen to music via the speakers, but you know, you got the Bluetooth support. No headphone jack sadly on either of them, so it's dongles all the way if you want to go wired. Next up, performance, and the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus is powered by MediaTek's Dimensity 7200 Ultra, versus Samsung's own Exynos 1480, which it slapped in the Galaxy A55. And benchmarking fans will notice that in the likes of Geekbench, that Exynos chipset performs much better in the multi-core department, although I've got to say I've noticed that the everyday experience is pretty similar on both of them. However, if you're gaming on the likes of Genshin Impact for more than half an hour, I notice the Samsung Galaxy A55 does tend to heat up, although not quite to fingertip troubling levels. And you will also see some frame rate jitters if you bump the graphics settings to those higher levels. Meanwhile, the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus fares slightly better on the same high graphics settings on Genshin Impact, with only occasional drops in that frame rate, which otherwise remained quite pleasantly stable. And this phone didn't get quite as toasty around the back end either, so if you're after a pocket pal to indulge in some serious thumb mashing activities, the Redmi is your best bet, especially given that superior gaming mode. There's really not much in it when it comes to the battery life. You've got a 5000 mAh capacity cell stuffed inside of the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus and that Galaxy A55, and I found that lasts you a full day with mixed use, plenty of screen on time, roughly 5 to 6 hours of screen on time. You'll just about be dipping into the power saving modes. And that does include a fair bit of audio streaming in the background as well, a bit of Spotify, audiobooks, podcasts, whatever you're into. But of course, if you're using the camera a lot, shooting lots of 4K video, or doing a good bit of gaming on that Genshin, well, obviously then you'll see the battery life start to reduce quite quickly. But if you're quite a demanding user, you're never off your smartphone, you'll be more tempted by the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus because this supports super nippy 120 watt wired battery charging. So bung a cable in it for 10 minutes and you'll be able to keep on going for hours more. It's ideal for just topping yourself up before a long night out on the town or whatever else. Whereas unfortunately on the Samsung Galaxy A55, it's a decidedly mediocre 25 watt wired charging. So you'll need to bung that cable in for a good 30-40 minutes to get any kind of solid returns from it. And of course, as this is a Samsung blower, you don't even get the adapter bundled in the box, unlike with the Redmi. As for wireless charging support, well, neither of these phones do that, so if that's a priority, then I guess you're out of luck. So let's finish with a squint at that camera tech, and you've got a mighty 200 megapixel primary shooter here on the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus. It's actually one of Samsung's own sensors, the HP3, versus the Galaxy A55, which sports a more modest 50 megapixel primary shooter. Now, I rather like Xiaomi's camera app because you can just drag down a whole bunch of toggles and settings with your thumb like so. It's quite one-handed friendly, whereas here on the Galaxy you'll be reaching up to the top end, otherwise having to dive into the actual camera settings. And of course you've got an extensive range of bonus features with both of these blowers. You've got the obligatory portrait mode, of course you've got a night mode with both of them as well. You can shoot a high-res image, 200 megapixels of course here on the Redmi and 50 megapixels here on the Galaxy A55. Quite handy if you want to crop in without losing too much detail. And when it comes to the regular photo mode, frankly neither the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus or that Galaxy A55 are particularly stellar, but they'll do you a job and it's hard to grumble too much at this sort of price point. You can check out my full camera reviews and my individual videos I did with these phones, but I also did a quick side-by-side comparison test using the auto photo mode with any AI scene shenanigans switched off to get as natural an image as possible. And both do a decent job with everyday shots, although the A55 still tends to brighten up images to the point of saturation sometimes, compared with the warmer tones of the Redmi. Of the two, I personally prefer Xiaomi's take. Of course, as always, it's completely subjective. You might disagree, in which case feel free to call me a blind shagwit in the comments or whatever. HDR results are variable, with the Samsung usually producing more atmospheric natural pics, but low light shots are a struggle with both, especially if you're trying to shoot a living thing. The A55 occasionally handles tricky lighting better, especially as the Redmi's focus is proper cack when things get darker. But both night modes do a decent enough job of producing brighter pics with limited grain, as long as you've got pretty still hands and the Redmi's focus doesn't f*** up of course. And you've got an ultra wide angle shooter on both of these mid-range smartphones, 8 megapixel on the Redmi, 12 megapixel on the Galaxy A55. They're both pretty basic, but they'll do the job if you want to fit a bit more into frame. And those optics are rounded off with a crappy pointless macro sensor on both of these blowers. For a bit of home movie action, well, both the Galaxy A55 and the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus shoot up to Ultra HD 4K resolution footage, but only at 30 frames per second. There's no 60 FPS option there. Otherwise, if you bump it down to Full HD, that 60 frames per second option comes into play. And then for the final bit of optics on both of these blowers, you've got a 16 megapixel selfie shooter up front on the Redmi, and that's actually double the megapixels, 32 here on the Galaxy A55. And here's some pics of my face shot on the Redmi and the Galaxy, and frankly, I think I look pretty haggard and sick of life in all of them. And when it comes to that selfie camera, you can once again capture up to 4K resolution footage here on the Galaxy A55, and that audio pickup absolutely fine as it is with the back cameras when shooting video. Whereas here on the Redmi, you can only shoot full HD resolution footage. There's no 4K option with that selfie shooter, but again, the audio pickup absolutely fine. The stabilization just as good as that Galaxy. And there you have it, my lovelies. That, in a tasty wee nutshell, is how Xiaomi's Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus stacks up against the Samsung Galaxy A55, two of the best mid-range mobiles you can grab yourself right now in 2024. But which one is best for you? Be great to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. As I say, if I was a gamer, I'd probably go with the Redmi rather than the Galaxy. We've also got the added bonus of that super fast wide charge, and the Galaxy is slightly better when it comes to the optics, especially in lower light where that focus doesn't absolutely fall on its arse. If you want to know more on either of these blowers, I've done a dedicated video on the pair of them. I've also compared the Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus with the regular Redmi Note 13 and the Redmi Note 13 Pro. Quite a few in that family, it's a big one. And please do poke, subscribe, ding that notifications bell, all the usual YouTube bollocks, and have yourselves a bloody wonderful rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you.